Clive Barker Podcast, Audio Commentaries.
Thanks to your generous donations to our Kickstarter funding campaign, Clive Barker Podcast presents Fundraiser 7, Deader. All right, well, welcome. This is episode 276 of the Clive Barker Podcast. Good morning, Jose.
Hi.
And we have guests, Ed and Nina Martinez of Cenobium, who have been on our podcast lots of times. You've probably heard them already.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey. So, just to bring around the relevance of what we're doing here, Species, of course, is not a Clive Barker movie, but we're following Clive Barker's A to Z of horror and his recommendations, and F is for Flesh in the letter F is all about movies that H.R. Giger helped design, and so we're on the movie Species. So we did Alien last, and now we're doing Species.
Boy, oh boy, have we got a treat for you today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually, it's sort of a guilty pleasure movie for people, I think. I don't think anybody would say it's a really good movie, but it is a fun movie, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I found out looking into the franchise that there are 4 movies now, and I'm like, there was a 4th movie?
Yeah,
Holy
I saw
crap.
that too. I'm like, it's
Awakening.
called Species, The Awakening, yeah.
Oh, I just saw the trailer, and I was like, oh my God, this looks terrible. It looks like an asylum film or something.
Yeah, it's like a super low budget with terrible actors version of the first movie.
My friend Jeremy Aiello worked on the third movie. He sculpted the creature the third movie. There's a really good...
Was that the male one, or was he in the second movie?
That's the second one, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
No, this is the third movie where it went direct to video and stuff, but there is a nice documentary sort of behind the scenes thing showing the creature, being sculpted by him, and, the lab, workshop and stuff like that. That's the best part. There's, there's like a little behind the scenes documentary thing. I think you can find it on YouTube, but, I watched it, I rented it and watched it, and, it was pretty forgettable. It's just a bad sequel, but the creature is good. The sculpture is good,
That's what these movies are all about.
Yeah. And I saw those once, but I've never saw them again after 2 and 3. I liked 1 enough to buy it, and mainly for the Giger designs, and I loved the train, and we'll talk about that when we get there.
Should we go ahead and start?
Yeah, and so for everybody out there, if you want to follow along, we're paused at the MGM Lion. He's about to roar, or he might be like mid-roar, I'm not sure. But
spoiler alert.
Yeah. Nina, do you want to do the countdown?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
So 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Play.
Okay, Leo the Lion.
All right.
Meow.
So I saw this movie. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just so everybody knows, I am a blind podcaster. I'm probably one of the only blind podcasters who covers movies. But because I've only, within the past 5-6 years become blind, it's so familiar to me. I love this, Giger work in this movie. Yeah. The movie itself isn't that great, but I love Giger's work, so I'm very familiar with the film.
Did you guys notice how similar this opening crawl is to Alien?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
It seems pretty deliberate, like they're trying to say, hey, this is more of what you're going to... This is going to be like Alien if you stick around and watch this.
Yeah, did you see the trailers for this?
I did, yeah.
Maybe,
I watched a bunch of the trailers.
A long time ago.
They have that digital clock like font saying, contact and seduction and all that stuff, and then they show like clips of the movie.
So this director Roger Donaldson, I tried to look up other movies that he's done, and it's really unremarkable. Like, remember when there were 2? The only one that I've seen out of all of his work was, remember when there were 2 volcano movies? There was Dante's Peak and Volcano. So he directed Dante's Peak.
Right.
I think before he made this movie. He had done The Getaway and No Way Out, and then they signed a deal at around $2 million to direct Species.
And it seems like it's not really his thing, because
he made action films. Mostly.
Yeah, his other works were like political intrigue, action sort of thriller.
Well,
movies.
The Getaway is an action. It's a remake of the original The Getaway with Steve McQueen, and I think it's with Alec Baldwin. Or no, it's what's his name? Alec Baldwin's wife. What's her name? From she was in Batman too.
I can look that up. Let's see.
Anyway,
The Getaway from 1994.
Yeah, the remake.
Kim Basinger.
There we go.
Yeah.
I remember
so that movie made a good amount of money. Those action films that he did, No Way Out and The Getaway, they made a good amount of money. So that's why he got this job.
I remember when in the opening of this with SETI, at the time I was really into SETI at home, where you would set up your computer to process the radio static and send it back to SETI. And so I would set up entire computer labs, like in college and when I was a teacher.
Wow.
I set up the entire computer labs to do that as their screensavers, because I was on a team and I wanted my team to win.
You're the nerd.
Yeah.
So it made me think, oh man, look what I've done. Look what I've contributed to.
Were you in Japan at the time when you did that?
No, that's when WSU and when I was a teacher.
And here's the Arecibo Observatory, which recently got damaged by a storm. Actually, like some of the cables broke and one of the pillars collapsed. Yeah, they're going to have to fix that. It's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah. Although this movie is sort of a cautionary tale, maybe they should just tear it down.
And the movie Contact has a lot to say.
Yeah, that's a good movie. Yeah.
With a big Arecibo. Is it the Arecibo one as well in Contact?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, in Puerto Rico.
And it's interesting in this, they talk about how the aliens were benevolent at first, like they teach us how to use this infinite energy. And then they give us this,
like they send two things. They send one, which is a help for our, energy problems, and the other is the species.
Oh, and here's how you can combine this DNA with your DNA to be like super awesome. And
I guess which of the two experiments that they decided to do? Not the free energy for everyone. It's like let's do the alien DNA thing.
Right.
And here's Michelle Williams, very young Michelle Williams, from Montana. She, of course, would go along to play a lot of good movies.
Yeah, didn't she marry Heath Ledger?
Oh,
I think so. Yeah,
they had a child together. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Joker.
She ended up playing Marilyn Monroe in My Week with Marilyn. She was in that movie Synecdoche, New York, Brokeback Mountain. She's one of the wives, right?
Yeah, that's why maybe they met in there. Anyways, about the movie, one of the things I was going to mention is the original story idea was called The Message. Remember that?
Yeah.
And the concept was that he thought, like if I'm going to make a movie about aliens, it's kind of an old-fashioned idea to have them come down in a tin can. So, what's a better idea than that? Like, well, the SETI project, with like sending messages back and forth, that would be the smart thing to do. If an alien civilization from a different galaxy were to try to communicate with us, they would do like what Contact did or what this movie says it is trying to do by sending some sort of message.
I think that Ben Kingsley's character in this is the weakest, which he's a great actor. It's too bad. But,
I agree.
But he's so milquetoast, and you want to sort of feel sorry for him, but he makes wrong decisions all the time, and he just
he almost killed Marg Helgenberger. Spoiler alert.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's very two-dimensional. His job is mostly to stand there and look serious and stern, and I need a team to hunt this down, and it's like,
he was
a police procedural. He becomes a police procedural.
He was really wasted in that role, I think.
I agree. Yeah. They have a great cast. They have this awesome cast.
Yeah.
They don't really give them that much to do.
Yeah.
Here's the part that I love in this movie, which is, this is a super secret lab where they're doing alien DNA experiments. She's literally like 2 doorways away from leaving the building and jumps over a 7-foot like chicken wire fence, and then there's a train track right next to it.
Yeah.
Right.
And there.
Well,
machine guns, pointed at that thing so that if any crack in the glass, it just automatically goes.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, they have cyanide, but why couldn't they put a black garbage bag over the damn canister that says cyanide? It's like, well, the audience had to see that it said cyanide.
Yeah, they zoomed in on it like they made it really obvious. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I know she has to escape so the movie continues, but literally they have cars, they have trucks, they have helicopters.
She's only like
she jumps a train.
She's only like
and
a week
they're
old.
unable to follow it.
Do you think she can really
catch a 10-year-old girl?
Do you think she can read though? She's only like a week old.
She had books next to her on the chair.
And TVs and stuff. Okay. She sees TV and she learns from TV really quickly.
Well, she does see a television later. Oh, there she throws the guy against the wall.
Yeah, she just... And she
killed Ernest.
Yeah, he's totally mangled.
Yep. That's a cool death shot right there.
Yeah.
Like he's
What's
all
her
twisted,
name again?
broken.
The actress, the young lady?
Michelle Williams.
Okay. She has no lines. Absolutely no lines. I mean, I'm listening, right? I can only hear this.
Right.
Doesn't she say? She says
lines from her.
Doesn't she say yes or something in the train?
No. The black lady comes in, opens the door, says, "Hi, honey, you 12?"
She kind of nods.
We'll make you 11. Yeah. She doesn't say anything. She just nods.
Yeah, the only thing she says is she repeats what Ben Kingsley says, "I'm sorry," and she mouths, "I'm sorry," which is going to come back later because it's going to tell us that she can read lips in another scene.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, what an easy job. No dialogue.
Yeah.
Well, she has to emote.
Right.
But, it's just...
Even Natasha Henstridge, later on when she's the adult still, hardly has any lines.
Which is crazy because do you know how old she was when she made this movie, Natasha Henstridge? She was 19.
Really?
Wow.
She is 19.
Wow. She's like the opposite of most actors who are way too old to play the parts that they're playing.
She emancipated herself from her parents at the age of 14 to become a model in Paris, France. And then by the time she was 19, I think she made this movie. Crazy, isn't it?
She totally looks like she's like 25.
She's watching how cash works.
In her first film, she goes nude,
Yeah.
Is this her first film?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, from modeling to this,
Yeah.
And she's become one of the hardest working, actress / models in the business. If you look at her IMDb credits, she's been working steadily on movies and TV every single year since then.
Can you name anything? Have we known?
Sure. CSI Miami. She's been in that show for almost like 10 years, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
She's a regular cast member on that?
Yeah, I think she was. Let me just pop real quick on her IMDb.
Mark Helgenberger was. You're not confusing that with it, are you?
I don't think so. Let me just check real quick.
Because Mark
I was looking at this
went
last
on
night.
To CSI Miami for 10 years or something like that.
Yeah, like she did 40 years in Medina, which is a TV series. She did a couple of years on Diggstown. And then let's see, what else? Hawaii Five-0 in the movie. Secret Circle TV series. She was in there for a year. CSI Miami. She was in there for... she's Agent Renee Locklear.
Okay. That's interesting because Mark Helgenberger, I wonder if they had scenes together, like on the same CSI.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Yep. She's done a lot of stuff. She's got like 75 credits on IMDb for acting.
Nina looked her up to see what she looks like today. I think there's a picture she found on Google.
She looks pretty much the same. Yeah. Maybe her
she's got to be at least 50 something by now,
So that's crazy. Then if she was only 19 in this movie, that means she's younger than us.
She's born in 74.
Oh, okay, so she's the same age as me.
August 15, which is 3 days away. So she will be, 46 on August 15.
So I'm like a couple of months older than her.
So she's under 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
46.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
I think she's still looking pretty good.
She's looking pretty good for 46, huh?
Yeah. It's that alien DNA, good genes.
Yeah.
So anyways, let's talk about Giger. There's a YouTube video that we found where I believe she and the director and the producer go visit Giger in Switzerland.
Yeah,
go to his house.
That's on the Blu-ray too. It's called H.R. Giger at Work.
Ah.
Yeah, and did you see the part where there's this part where they took Giger's like, okay, I've got this skull here and this skull here. I think they're from horses. And he's like, and you take this rib cage. I think this is from a tiger or a lion.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you shove them together, and it makes a train car that goes in the back of the train.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah, that's a pretty cool train. And I wonder if they put the, yeah, we see him. Well, Giger has a thing for trains. Like in his house, he had like a little haunted, house attraction train that he created in his backyard.
Well, ever since he was a child, though, young. I mean, I know a lot about Giger's whole life.
Yeah, he made one of those when he was a kid, and he would take his friends and put him on the train.
What you call a ghost ride. They used to call it a ghost ride, and so some of the ghost rides would have a little train car that you would just put little kids, like 8, 9, 10-year-olds. Like that's how early he did this. Like he took just like a one room and a bedroom and painted the walls and made it all black and scary with skulls and stuff like that. So ever since he was young, like me, ever since he was young, he was doing haunted houses and he loved the concept of spooks and ghost rides and all that. So, obviously that shows, his love of black clothing and skulls and gothic death imagery and all that stuff,
Right.
He's a man after my own heart,
Yep. Hey, here's Forrest Whitaker being introduced at his therapy session.
I think this therapy session is pretty contrived. I mean, it's like he's talking to her for the first time, telling him about himself, and I don't know.
Yeah, he's talking about the he feels weird and has these feelings. Have you tried Scientology?
Yeah.
I'm joking. That line's not in there, but but yeah,
Michael Madsen is pretty off the cuff.
Oh, there's the train. The Giger train.
Yeah.
Dream sequence. This is the dream sequence.
That.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And when you saw him describing all the things that the train could do in that video, it's like they don't even do all of that stuff here in the movie. Like
that's nothing. He designed a whole train station and everything, and it didn't get used.
And it was supposed to pump blood out of the mouth of one of those train cars and pour blood down over the teeth and stuff, and it didn't happen.
And that wasn't the first time that he made a train like this for a movie, right? I think, wasn't there something like this for like Dune as well?
I think
that
Dune had one.
Only in painting form.
Only in paintings. Okay. They never made it. It was just concept art. But I think he always had this idea of making these trains. And it's really hard not to bring up the cover of Motorhead's Orgasmatron because
because it looks
just totally looks like that. Yeah. Oh, look, this is what you were talking about earlier, the scene where she's like eating all this food in the train because she's preparing to hibernate. To go into the cocoon.
And she's just beginning to cocoon now.
Yeah, and you see these prosthetics with air pockets inside where they're like blowing it up, and it just looks so unsettling.
And it
actually... Let me explain this technique real quick.
Sure.
You use, the kind of thin, clear plastic bags that you get when you go to the dry cleaners and they give you your clothing back in those thin, clear plastic bags, right?
Yeah.
That kind of plastic is what they're using here. And what you do is you take 2 layers of this plastic and like a soldering iron, and you can like make it weld together. You can form all kinds of little thin tubes and balloons and things like that. And then you can push and pull the plastic and make it kind of have, like when you pop like bubble wrap and stuff, how you can push and pull that thin plastic and stuff. So you make all these puckers and shapes in the clear plastic, and then you airbrush it and dye it and put veining and stuff in it. And then you can put those cylinders and tubes inside of other cylinders and tubes and other shapes and things. And then it's controlled by various pumps and hoses of air. So when that cocoon is building and growing, it's being done organically live in front of the camera. That's not stop motion. That's not CGI. That's live balloon type art in a weird way. And that was a technique that Steve Johnson and his XFX crew guys developed and created. And they also used that same technique later in the movie Lord of Illusions. So I just wanted to connect that there.
I think it's interesting in this movie the way that the sympathy plays, because you're at this point in the movie you're like I kind of like these characters that are supposed to hunt Syl, but at the same time I feel really bad. She's just this poor little girl that's trying to escape being gassed to death.
Right.
And later on, Syl changes, and I think, and I like the symbolism of the train, because it's like, hey, I'm the alien part of you that's coming for you. I'm going to take over. You human part, you're going to be gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If I could bring up what you were saying earlier, Ed, about the original treatment for this movie called The Message. There's a very clever twist to this whole thing where they talk about the message explaining how to mix alien DNA with human DNA. So the reason for that actually makes a lot of sense, which would be it was a way for the alien species that was contacting us to be able to know that they would be able to create a hybrid that would survive in our atmosphere and have all the defenses built into the human DNA against whatever diseases or environmental hazards we would have. So that would be the way for them to colonize a planet by just not having to worry about the biosphere.
Yeah, you wouldn't
planet.
come in tin cans.
Right.
And then the unlimited energy source would be mainly just for them. It's like, you get it started
but here's
for
my
us, and then
question.
we'll take over.
She's going to break out of the
Oh yeah, here's the cocoon.
break out of the cocoon.
It's a really cool.
This
looking
is an awesome cocoon. I love
Yeah,
it.
you can
Pulsating
really see that
thing,
plastic
it's-
effect in this scene.
Yeah.
It's very giggerish
And this
because
poor
it's
old
got
lady,
this.
she was so
Yeah,
nice
and
to her.
ironically,
I
it's
know.
not Giger's design. This is like a weird organic idea that those guys at XFX here in LA came up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gets used all over the place in Lord of Illusions.
And I'm
Yeah.
just going to bring it up. That big slit down the middle just makes
yeah.
it look like something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A female organ.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not
rolling
a
out.
coincidence, I don't think.
This shot was done upside down. She actually is pushing up out of that cocoon thing, and then they flip the shot upside down.
That's cool.
That's what it said in like Cinefantastique. It was a
I want
magazine.
to squeeze in 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon that Ben Kingsley also worked on a movie with Sigourney Weaver, bringing it back around to another
really?
Giger-related thing. Yeah.
Which movie was that?
It was one I think where he played
over the house.
he played a torturer.
Oh, right. He's an
Yeah,
old
and she-
Iranian torturer that's living in the U.S.
She tries to get her revenge on him, and so it's how
He buys her house or something because it's put in the market for like something.
some
Yeah, I remember that. Uh-huh.
yeah.
And
anyways,
keep in
it's
mind,
a great cast. This is a great cast.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they don't change their clothes for like 3 days. They only change their clothes after they think Syl is dead and they're partying and everybody has a different outfit. But in the meantime, everybody has the same clothes.
Good catch. I didn't notice that.
Kind of a waste of this cast. Like, gosh, Forrest Whitaker is a great actor. Like, this movie could have just had just one of any of these 4 or 5 people in it, and it would have been enough. Just Forrest Whitaker and Syl, or just Michael Madsen and Syl, or just Marge Helgenberger and Syl, or just you know what I mean, like, or Alfred Molina. I mean, God, these are all awesome actors.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis Feldman, the writer of the script, originally said that his original idea in one of the first drafts of the script, there was supposed to be more of a love triangle between the character of Marge Helgenberg and Syl and Michael Madsen. And there's still a little bit of that near the third act, but there was supposed to be more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. She's eyeballing him, but that's like as far as it ever gets. Like for Syl, I mean, was kind of eyeing Michael Madsen's character, like, well, maybe I'll go for him, but it never happens.
This is the part where they're saying how they did the genetic experiment, and we kept 2 of these like eggs on liquid nitrogen. I'm like, that's for the sequel.
Yeah,
Right.
did that come up in the sequels? I can't remember.
Yes. How do you think they get Syls in the future?
I don't
Then
remember.
she's called Eve, which is extraterrestrial vulnerability experiment. Oh, God.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing about the message the original script had, where the guy who was developing Syl like took it back home to his own home lab or something, which they do in I think the third one, which is ridiculous. Like, do you remember that one? Did you see that one, Ryan?
Yeah,
Where
but
the
I barely.
You don't remember it that well.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that one. I think I stopped at 2. And I saw this one in the theater.
Same. So did I.
But could you imagine, like they're building Syl in this, tissue paper lab, that she can just, breathe hard and get out of. Could you imagine doing this in your home, like a neighborhood, like a rural neighborhood, in the 2-car garage lab?
Right. He's like, I got a baseball bat. I'll be okay.
Right. Right.
So this is the part where they show the videotapes of young Syl in the experiment room, and then she's sleeping, and she has that weird weird shiver in the middle of her dream, like she was like,
yeah.
And it's like, well, this is the time where we decided we should put an end to the experiment. It's like, what? I mean, shouldn't you guys have waited for something a little more significant than that?
That was a little weak, and also. Another strange thing here is like, didn't they have X-rays? I mean, if she just only looks human on the outside, but she's completely different on the inside, wouldn't they have figured that out?
They must have been examining her from day one when she was, 1 hour old,
And she was friendly to them. I mean, they could probably, take her by the hand and walk her around and, up until the point where they try to gas her.
I think that the film doesn't really do a very good job of explaining. It would have taken too long to show how quickly she was growing from a very early stage and everything. They had to just get to the point where she becomes, the adult Syl.
Yeah.
But here's my question about Syl and the message and all that stuff. Do you think? I know what my position is on this, but it's kind of like the same as the Alien movies, but. When they talk about the aliens sending this message to mix this DNA with human DNA, do you think that this is a biological weapon, or do you think that this is the alien DNA from the aliens themselves? Because that wouldn't make much sense.
No,
right?
I think it's a biological weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the question is if we'd been nicer to her, like if the humans they still get
she is biologically programmed like a bomb to go off.
Yeah. To take off, to take over. To take over whatever planet.
She's supposed to become the dominant species on this planet.
Well, and it's
zoo.
Yeah, and it's funny. Was it what is the doctor? Her name I forget.
Mark Helgenberger.
Yeah, her character says something like, "I wonder if which part of her was the predator, the human or the alien." It's like she says that, and it's kind of a throwaway line, but I think we all know. I mean, it's not the human part.
The alien. Of course.
Come on. Yeah.
And here's Grand Central Station in Los Angeles. That couldn't have been cheap to film in Los Angeles, right? I mean, I know it was the 90s.
No, that doesn't cost money. That's just a permit for the day,
Yeah.
Actually, that's one of the things I was going to say is that the budget for this movie went for 3 or 4 main things. That is all those actors' paychecks. They're all like $1 million paycheck people. And the director, the script, they got a big chunk of money, and then the effects, because at the time, the actress who played Syl, she was a nobody, so I'm sure she got a decent paycheck, but she was not getting $1 million or anything, I bet.
Yeah,
right.
That little girl that was staring at her as she got off the plane or the train. I mean, that must have been somebody's. That must be some kind of an inside
somebody's
thing.
Daughter.
Yeah, right. Because she got she got a long close.
She got featured nicely.
They're pulling aside all the young blonde girls to see if it's her.
Yeah.
Right. That's what they're doing.
That's right.
Yep. But have you noticed that the lady in the train did not share the same body size with her at all, and then her outfit looks just immaculate.
Custom for her. Yeah, because they are not going to let this actress ever be unattractive in this film.
That's a good point. Yeah.
This is the part where I just call BS on this whole idea of like, we have to keep her isolated and we have protocols in the lab. And then they just walk into this wagon in the train wearing nothing but a piece of cloth in front of their face and just look at alien DNA stuck all over the wall.
Horrible smell in this room, and they're all like, "Oh, I got to get out of here! It stinks in here."
Yeah.
Like but then she gives off spores,
Right.
It
could be invisible shit that they're breathing in.
Yeah.
Wasn't it in the Dark Horse comics, the Alien Dark Horse comics, that at one point they said something about the alien also spreading with spores? I remember the old 90s comics. There was a story with Hicks and the little girl. And
did you hear, speaking of Alien comics, did you hear about how, right now, Marvel just got the rights to all the back issues of the Dark Horse Alien comics, and they reprinted them all into an omnibus, and they put a cover that was ripped off from some other artist. There's this controversy going on about Yep.
Man,
That's cool.
if they had all those covers to choose from and they rip off something else instead.
Well, they get a brand new piece of art done, and it's an actual exact, like a tracing, like an exact copy of somebody else's art. And the guy who did the original, posted on Twitter, like, look, and he put an overlay with Photoshop, and it's an exact. I mean, the guy didn't even change hardly nothing.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I've heard the same thing happens with sometimes DVD releases, and there was some label that would use these custom made covers for their releases, and then people would just go and see this is just taken out of this paperback book from like the 70s, and it's like sometimes some artists go and.
American video game box art is like that too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Album covers. All
Contra has traces art from Schwarzenegger and Rambo, right?
Yeah. It's funny that she picks out a wedding dress for
all those comics are apparently being reprinted, the original Dark Horse ones, in a big fat omnibus.
Yeah, that's cool. I've had some of those.
This movie ended up being a big box office hit. I mean, it made 113 million worldwide.
Yeah,
I saw a YouTube video of a reviewer who said that according to like the tabloid type newspaper magazines you see at the supermarket and stuff, that it was because of her topless and breast shots and things like that it made a lot of money because.
I think it's got a lot of everything. It's got something for everybody. It's kind of a horror movie. It's kind of a science fiction movie. It's a romantic comedy.
Yeah, but sex sells, and that's why the script was the way it was.
Yeah. It is. I mean, you got the Michael Madsen romance with the doctor. What's her name?
Well, like as Jose said, the original message was a love triangle story.
Yeah.
These guys are like a D&D team. It's like Michael Madsen is the tank.
I agree.
The empath is like a cleric maybe, and then
you got a magic user, you got a cleric, you got a fighter, you got a thief, a hobbit,
Yeah.
What I find really, really like breaks the movie a little bit for me, and I just go like, okay, they just wanted to make an alien film. Is later in the third act, you're going to see them as soon as they find Syl at the hotel and they go into the basement. It just turns into straight up alien movie because they just bring out these giant guns and flamethrowers
and dark tunnels and corridors.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and water.
Yeah, that's true.
He's noticing pregnant women and kids.
You know what, though? I want to talk a little bit more about Giger because think about this budget and this movie and this script and how much Giger, Giger's the tail that's wagging the dog. Like, this movie has all this stuff, and you hardly see anything of Giger's work if
it's true.
You think about it.
And that's what got me to come see this movie in the first place, was hearing about that.
I agree. Me too. I'm a Giger fan,
Yeah.
So like Nina was saying, this is the part where she is now fully matured out of her cycle. She's become a pretty butterfly out of her chrysalis.
Yeah, with her wedding dress.
Yeah, and like you were talking about before we started this, you were talking about fertility and this idea. Do you want to expound a little bit on that?
Oh, yeah. I was saying to Ed, before the 1970s, women for many generations, if you were going to procreate with someone, you knew that you could risk having a child that would tie you to that person for the rest of your life. So
birth control wasn't so easy.
Right. So women had to be very discerning of who they actually had intercourse with because the repercussions were so serious. And in this case, she's also being very discerning because she wants
perfect
some good
DNA.
Yeah, she don't want the guy that's got the congenital defects. She's looking for sort of choosing
or diabetes.
In a way that's not common in our culture now, because now you can kind of swipe on Tinder and you assume you don't have consequences.
Yeah, and you're not going to have pregnancy, or if you do, you can have abortion so easily. So this is a movie that's the exact opposite.
Right. So she's when she comes across a guy that's looks good, but it turns out to be inferior, she's like, oh, done with you.
Yeah. Well, and she has 100% chance of pregnancy from every intercourse.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she's
in
kind
minutes.
of a very fertile Black Widow.
Yeah.
This experiment sequence here where they're like, okay, well, we don't know where she is, but you know what? Let's go back to the lab and let's see what the actual DNA of the alien would be without the human DNA.
Let's build another one.
And it's
Make
like
it worse.
And they just stop looking for her and go into the lab and make this weird experiment that's just meant to introduce all this tension.
Yeah, and it seems like this should have taken weeks, right? Not, not like 20 minutes or whatever it is that they're doing.
Right.
Well, actually, I think that's part of the idea is that they're showing how viral this thing is, how, within a matter of moments it can get out of control. And
but I mean, just even setting it up. It's
and the contrivance of as soon as they're going to pierce the cell to insert the DNA, which again they said, let's see what this looks like without human DNA. But what cell are they inserting this into? It's a human cell, right?
Yeah.
So it's always going to share half.
It doesn't have any DNA in it. They've taken all the nucleus material out.
Oh, I see. And so, of course, as soon as she's going to pierce the needle into the cell, it's like, oh, the camera just died.
The wing But now you've opened the pathway between the syringe and the cell, so it's on. Yeah. It's on like Donkey Kong.
And this is where it's gonna.
What do you mean they cut the power? They're animals, man.
I mean, there's good stuff in this sequence.
Being used, that clear plastic bag, puckering, and air bladdering technique is being used again.
Cover it all in
like in Lord of Illusions, the mud and shit, right?
Exactly.
And there we see. Yep.
And then, of course, they throw in a tentacle, which I think the tentacle may be being done with reverse photography, where it's already extended, and then they reverse it. They yank it back in.
They drag it back. Yeah.
It's basically, of course, because this is so connected to the alien thing, but it's basically like a face hugger that comes out of it.
Very much, yes.
Yeah. It's basically a face hugger.
Organic with its little, and slimy and
with its little tube mouth, like kissing the glass and going like, rum, 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 rum.
I think watching this, you kind of wish that instead of what they made, that it was like an Alien on Earth movie. Mm-hmm. But this movie is fine, but it's
you mean the Giger alien, the xenomorph?
That would have I mean, this movie is fine.
Well, they can
but it's
still do that
alien
someday.
Movie.
Who knows? Maybe they can still do that.
Yeah,
this is what happens when you microwave a Dawn soap.
Right?
Is that right?
I like the box, how the box gets cracked and broken, and it's like that is a neat trick. Like you can make a box with glass, and in the edges of the box, like where the frame of the metal edges are, you could hide like a little charge, a little electronic charge that can be fired from over behind the camera so that it cracks on cue in front of the camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They should have made that box glass out of the same glass that Michael Madsen just tried to break.
Yeah.
Oh, they can't break. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just telling us that thing is really, really strong. Inside the box, that little tentacle thing with no bones in it is really strong.
Right. Yeah, which is crazy, too, because that was another thing I was going to talk about, the design of Syl herself, the adult full version of Syl, when she's the monster version, the geeky design. When you look at her arms and stuff, her legs and stuff, it doesn't have bones. Like, from the wrist to the elbow of a human, there's 2 bones inside your arm, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then all the meat and veins and everything all around it. Well, in Syl, what they did was they molded her arm, they cast it in clear plastic, and then they made like machined cylinders, like
I noticed
round tubes, kind of
radius and ulna
inside the arm. So there's no bones. It's got like rods and tubes and stuff connecting through those cylinders, but it's weird. It's like, how does that
Giger
work?
always wanted to try out a transparent creature, a creature that would be translucent and see-through, and so that's what he did.
Even the first Alien, they tried to make it more transparent in the first.
In the head, right, where you see the skull inside.
Well, even the body, they even tried to do the body, but they couldn't. It would never work because the man inside the suit.
That's the only thing that I thought. The monster looks really cool, but anatomically speaking, it doesn't look very believable. It looks more like a sculpture come to life.
And watching this in HD, the CGI is not as impressive as it was back in 1995.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It looks like PlayStation 1 graphics.
Yeah.
This looks like a video game, compared to modern CGI.
Yeah.
But they were, this was the early days of motion capture. So what they did was they motion captured a puppet, and so they could motion capture it in real time into the computer, the motion of the puppet being animated by the puppeteers. Yeah. And so then they would just have to adapt that animation to an actually rendered model.
But I think that like Alien 3 came out before this movie, and I think that Alien 3 did the CGI better.
Well, they also used a puppet with a rod that they removed the rod for the fast-running alien stuff. That was not CGI. Yeah,
it blended together really well. But they did have CGI also in Alien.
Yes, oh, my God. Do you guys remember Angora sweaters in the 90s?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I worked that look.
Yeah.
And right down to the fanny pack.
With the fanny pack.
Still got it. I have a denim one and a leather one.
That was the 90s, man.
Yeah.
Even guys wore Angora sweaters, and I'm not talking about Ed Wood.
Right.
This guy ended up being the sheriff in Twin Peaks, Sheriff Cable.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Let me say something about the Giger design again real quick. The issue about how much money they must have had to pay Giger, and the fact that, unfortunately, his mother was very ill and old and was, passing away during the time when this movie was being made. And so he was not willing to fly to America and come to the workshop of Steve Johnson and help, and supervise and oversee what they were doing. So unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that he was doing, he was initially intending to build a full-size animatronic version of Syl himself in Switzerland that then could be shipped to America that they could use on set. And that never happened. That wasn't capable of being done because he did have a couple of guys that he was paying to help him back in a workshop in Switzerland. But, that's what you saw, when they were talking about that train and the teeth and the jaws and all that stuff. But, they didn't have the same skill sets that American special effects guys have. And they didn't have the same sort of tools and materials like vac form machines and things like that. So they had a cruder version of, Syl and of the train and stuff like that. And, it never worked out, that Giger was able to really make his impression on it. They changed things like the CGI model. They made the face look uglier and, more menacing and more monster-like. And he wanted it to be more beautiful, like a pretty woman,
Oh. Well, and I don't remember if we talked about this before we started the episode or not, but another Clive Barker connection is that it's Christopher Young is the composer,
the musician,
and you can really hear it. Sometimes it sounds so much like Hellbound.
The Hellbound references, yes,
gets killed in the bathroom.
And pulling her spine out. Ugh. Jeez.
Yeah, another Steve Johnson effect.
Yeah. But so going back to what you were saying, Ed, to create the species creature, Mancuso, the producer, he got into Giger because he came up with that idea when Donaldson, the director, visited a Southern California comic book shop with his son and saw the Necronomicon book. And so Donaldson at that point realized that Giger would be the perfect choice to design the female. And then he showed that book to the producer, Mancuso, and to the MGM president, Michael Marcus. Oh. And that's when they were like, yeah, let's get this guy to come in and do the monster.
Right. And the thing about Giger was that he would love to have done a female alien, a long time ago, like his designs, like even the original Xenomorph design, if he could have made a translucent, transparent female Xenomorph that was beautiful as well as scary and creeper and stuff, he would have, but the technology was just not available. And, even when they did Species, it really wasn't available to be able to do it as a person in a suit or a full animatronic robot creature on set, so they had to go with CGI,
Yeah, Giger talked about his initial contact. He said, I was told this time I could do something I always wanted. I wanted to create a monster in another way, an aesthetic warrior, also sensual and deadly, like the women look in my paintings. Usually they ask me to design monsters with bad-looking, ugly faces and horrible teeth. I wanted Syl to turn into the monster and still look beautiful. This opportunity was mainly why I was attracted to the Species project.
Oh, so it's probably a little disappointing then.
Absolutely. That was very disappointing because his mom was ill and he couldn't go. And, he put a lot of his own money into paying these men that were his helpers, there in Switzerland. And some of that money, I don't think he got really reimbursed for. I think eventually he built a model that was of his version of Syl, and they covered the expenses. They didn't really pay him, what they should have for all his work, and pre-production time that he put out his own money, before they even signed a contract with them.
There's a lovely bust that's in the Giger Museum in Gruyere, Switzerland. It's Syl. It's just a torso and two arms and the head, and she's holding like a tentacle coming out of her own breast, and she's putting it into her mouth. It's a really beautiful sculpture.
The book too.
I think that's the cover of this book that we have.
Yeah, it's right on the cover.
He originally had this idea to put in holographic stuff inside the body, but then they cut the color changes and the glowing aspects of the alien.
Yeah, he had so many ideas. Like at one point, he wanted the Syl creature to become red hot and burn like everything around it. Did you remember?
That's cool.
But that would have changed the script completely. Like in order to
burn off her hair and clothes.
In order to do that, they weren't going to change the story that much. What they did was they came to Switzerland and they handed him a script, with the pages, the words on the page. And then, he had to go with a blank piece of paper and come up with the design,
And he kept sending them faxes and stuff. This is the part where she comes home with a guy from the club, and he just looks like a douchebag pickup artist. He's just got this this totally looks like the Hollywood Hills. And,
and his house has like automatic music, and
he just snaps his fingers.
Yeah.
You have to give them credit though, because the hotel manager guy was not a stereotype. You expected him to be like a creepy guy.
Oh, he was creepy.
You expected him to be creepy and would hit on her and she would kill him. I mean, that's kind of what you expected to happen.
I think that she did scan him when she first met him, because if he had not had some sort of genetical problem, I think she would have taken him back to the room and had sex with him.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
He had a disease, or he had something wrong with him.
That's a good point. Or he was just old. I mean, maybe. Yeah.
Here comes her tongue.
There comes the tongue, and serrated tongue coming out the back.
Yeah. That's a total alien.
Yeah.
Did you hear the story about the tongue? Like, there's a guy by the name of Les Barney who's a good friend of Giger's. I think he ran a gallery in California that was holding all of Giger's work and selling prints and things. And he was helping Giger with this movie too, where he sent Giger a bunch of shark teeth, real shark teeth, as a present, just for the heck of it. And Giger got those shark teeth and he loved them, and he took them apart and he put them on the tongue for Syl. So that's where that spiky tongue comes from.
Yeah, Giger wanted to incorporate an unused idea from Alien 3. It was the creature's tongue would be composed of barbed hooks. Syl would kiss her lovers, forcing her tongue into the victim's mouth and down their throats, and then yank the insides out.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leslie Barani sent him a set of shark teeth jaws from New York, to which Giger acknowledged, "Leslie is more than an agent. He is my close friend and also happens to be a good art director. The razor-sharp shark teeth were a big help. I transformed them into Syl's dangerous one-way tongue because, they're, barbed, so it just goes one way, and when it comes back out the other way, it pulls everything out."
Yeah, it's like Hellraiser hooks.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is Giger didn't like this, is that in the final film, instead of it going down your throat and down your esophagus
went out the back
and stuff,
of their head.
Yes, it goes just straight through.
But I guess it's a lot easier to show that than to show it.
Absolutely. For as far as CG and effects goes, definitely. And
of course, Steve Johnson, who is very, very active on Facebook, and now I feel like I was a lost opportunity to connect with him and ask him stuff about this. But he built the practical Syl. And along with his engineer and his other collaborators, and he really did the best work that he could to honor Giger's designs. So it really comes through. And when you look at the stuff that Giger made, and when you look at the animatronic puppet for the movie, it really looks very similar. It really does.
Yes, in a convention in L.A., Fangoria Weekend of Horrors, Steve Johnson was a guest, and so was Clive, and that's one of the reasons why we were there. Cenobium was there, and I think I might even have 8mm video footage of this. Steve brought a torso, like from just above the knees, from the thighs up of Syl, a full puppet, life size. And he had it with him up on stage. And afterwards, I went up real close so I could take a good look at it. And it had vac form plastic outer layers and inner body parts, that you could see down inside of it. You could see the ribs. You could see, it was awesome. I mean, and now to this day, I have a small resin garage model kit still unbuilt, that is of species Syl. That's a beautiful sculpture. Yeah.
Yeah, he sculpted it with the sculptor Mike Hosh on a life cast from Dana He. And when you were talking about...
That's Giger doing that.
No, I'm looking at a Cinefantastique magazine. I'm looking at Steve Johnson photos from his workshop. What Giger did was he made body molds of Natasha Henstridge in Switzerland to make his version of Syl.
So Steve did not use Natasha Henstridge's body molds in his shop in L.A.?
Well, it doesn't look like it because I see here a picture at XFX. Steve Johnson supervises fitting Dana He in the Syl bodysuit. And there's another one where it says that
you're probably right, because he does get, suit performers to wear the stuff like the actress Natasha Henstridge.
And there's another photo where he's not
going to be the one to wear a monster suit,
Right. And there's another photo where it says it was a life cast of Dana He. So
I see.
Yeah.
Anyways, the thing was very cool because it had lots of clear plastic parts and everything moved. And he talked about how it was really difficult to try to figure out like how you're going to make, the wrist have a joint that moves and the fingers be able to move with all the, that there's no joints, there's no bones. It's hollow, clear plastic, with weird tentacles and stuff inside.
This dream sequence where she's driving the car and all of a sudden she has a nightmare and wakes up somewhere in Santa Monica, and then she drives away and you see the car is like completely like scraped on the side, and it reminds me of that Simpsons episode where Homer goes to sleep while he's driving and then he wakes up trailing like a picket white fence. That scene in the bathroom where Syl killed a woman, I'm looking at some pictures here as well from Steve Johnson's workshop. The caption is funny. The caption reads, "This is Spinal Tap, filming Lisa Liberati as the bathroom bimbo who gets removed from the competition by Syl, scouting for a human meeting partner. Artist Kenny Myers and Bill Corso applied the design of the spine."
Man, what a jerk. That guy just does a hit and run.
Yeah, and the other guy with the sports car, he comes up to see if she's okay.
Yeah, and he seems like a nice guy, but then you find out later he's got like a girlfriend or a wife or something.
Yeah, but see, he wasn't going to screw her. She wanted to screw him. She started.
No, but he decided he went along with it after a while.
Do you see that he has a wife or a girlfriend?
There was a phone call or a voicemail or something from.
That was the team calling him to tell him that.
Yeah, to not.
No, not that. It was different.
Oh, okay. But anyways, the fact that he put down his credit card for a stranger, I mean, she was beautiful, but still.
Yeah.
Right. Well, he's trying to be a nice guy, probably a millionaire, has a nice house in California, in Santa Monica, yeah, with a pool and a bathtub.
LA rich guy.
Yep.
But let's talk more about Giger. So did you see the part, where they went to his house, and they were talking about how Giger has two houses in a very normal looking neighborhood, but
he cut a hole between them. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
My friend went there and visited him and stayed with him for about a week.
Wow.
Steve Leba, that guy who worked on the Hellraiser comics that I've talked about before. He was really good friends with Giger. Giger wrote a foreword for his book. Steve Leba has a couple of published books, and Giger wrote a foreword for his book.
Wow.
And that's why we have that fax that we've shown you before on the Alien episode.
Yeah. Right.
And ironically, if you look at that fax, it's those dildo-type shapes and stuff. That's kind of what he was drawing around the same time as Syl.
My mother says, "Why do you have to put the sex into everything?"
Oh, look at this part. Look at this part where she's on the table with a doctor, and he's going to see her scapula like heal itself.
Ooh, it's like morphing and CG effects.
That's kind of like the best CG in the whole movie. But yeah.
The when the little girl is in the train and her face kind of moves around, her bumps under her face and her arm and stuff, that's kind of good too.
Yeah. But the tentacles look a little like they're not part of the actual image that we're seeing. It's you can tell. But this is fun. Like before he has any time to react, the nurse comes over and says, "Doctor, there's a burnt child that needs your help."
Right. So he's got to be drawn away. You know, very clever, convenient.
Yeah.
I know. That's crazy. And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, cool. Oh okay. Hey, can we go?"
There's a phone call later on where it's like a girlfriend or a wife
guy at the hospital
is like, "Hey, sweetie, I just wanted to check in with you to see if we're still on for our date or something like that."
Oh, okay. I totally missed that part. I'm going to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I missed that too.
So now he's having his empath. I think empath, Ed and I had to talk about.
What is an empath? An empath is not what he's doing.
He's misnamed because he's really more than an empath in this.
If anything, he's a telepath. He might be able to.
It's like a psychic.
Yeah, but I think it's because he focuses on Syl's feelings all the time.
Yeah, but you can. An empath cannot go like do 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 do. There they are. You know, it's like that's not the way it works. You know.
And have you noticed that sometimes in crucial moments where he knows something is wrong, or he knows that she's looking at him, he doesn't say anything to anybody.
Yeah,
he's a MacGuffin. He's just there to be convenient. So when the script needs something to happen, it can be him.
I was thinking about that last night.
They would never have found her if it weren't for him.
Well,
right. So it needs it, you know.
Well, they would. That's what I was going to say. Like, you could take Forrest Whitaker's character, and it still wouldn't make much of a difference because she's leaving a trail that they're following with all this detective police procedural work. Yeah. So it's like he's not really doing much to help them. Like,
right. He's
all
only
the stuff
there
that he
for a
says.
couple of crucial scenes later.
He's explaining what she's going through to the audience.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his role.
But also for the crucial stuff at that hotel later, you know, he's there.
Because Syl doesn't talk.
Right. Actually, you know, the actress had a pretty easy thing of not having to memorize a lot of lines.
Yeah.
So Giger also fought pretty hard. He wanted to get some dream sequences involving Syl mating with a fellow creature. And I think you still see little bits and pieces of that in her night.
I wish they would have had lots more of that stuff.
With the creatures making love underwater and stuff.
Too much of it. Then you don't want to give the audience, leave the party while you're still welcome.
Well, it's like with the first Alien movie. It's like, the alien designs are, just glimpsed and in fleeting moments and stuff. But in the original Alien, Giger designed the planet. He designed the horseshoe-shaped alien ship. Yeah. He designed the eggs. He designed the facehugger. He designed the chestburster. Yeah. He designed the xenomorph adult. So his work is much more, prominent in the original Alien than, for instance, in this.
Yeah, right. So, and that's a little disappointing.
Here's the phone call, but the phone call is Michael Madsen and Marge.
No, that's not the phone call I was talking about.
Right.
But this is one where they are trying to warn him. They got his credit card from the hospital or something.
Yeah. Tell him he's about to copulate with a creature from outer space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Copulate, huh? She's all.
So Marge Helgeberg, what's the name of her character? Jeez, hang on. Let me just look that up.
I wrote it on the notes. It's
Annie.
Dr. Laura Barker. Baker.
Right.
Dr. Laura Baker.
Yeah. She's supposed to be what is she? Like a biologist? A molecular biologist.
Yeah.
She's a molecular biologist, yeah.
Right.
And she's actually in the sequel, Species 2, as well, with Michael Madsen, who looks even less interested in being in that movie. He just keeps laughing at everything in this movie.
I did think that was kind of odd casting, actually, to have him be that role,
Yeah.
Yeah, he does well.
I know, he does well, but think of it. I mean, he's in Reservoir Dogs. That's this murderer and stuff. It's like, he's had a pretty strange roles,
So now he's a mysterious assassin. Yeah.
I mean, Ben Kingsley has been in some real turkeys, man. I mean, he's been in some really good movies, but other movies that he's been in is just terrible. Wasn't he in a Uwe Boll movie or something?
Oh, was he?
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
He was also the Mandarin in that bad.
Iron
my
Man
God, that
3, yeah.
terrible.
So Sill's becoming more Sill-like here in the hot tub sequence.
Yeah.
She's got the eye, and we can see her face morph into the creature.
Yeah, and she's getting tentacly.
Yeah.
There goes the tentacle to choke him with.
You know, when I saw this movie in the theater, I thought I remembered more tentacles in the pool, but now it seems like it's just one.
It was her
the
tongue
pool
wrapped
seems like
around his
one, and
neck,
then-
right?
Yeah, then she uses them again later in the movie on Michael Madsen.
Yeah, so
Right.
one of them comes out of one of her breasts and
Well,
pulls
Giger
him up in the
intended
air.
those to have 2 tentacles, one out of each breast, and that they would wrap around you and then bring you close to her as she stuck the tongue through you, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of like the alien, the fact that the original Giger alien has like a punching tongue that smacks you in the forehead or, you know.
Yeah.
In the second one, what's weird is that in the second one, it's one guy goes to Mars and then he finds something like some sort of alien DNA in Mars, and then he brings it back to Earth, right? So it's
Supposedly
like,
what happened is that the alien species that, you know, is bringing us this species is wiped out Mars first. Like, in other words, centuries and centuries ago, they came to Mars, and whatever life was on Mars, they wiped it out.
Oh, okay.
And that's why there's some leftover, you know, Syl DNA on Mars. And that's why the human man goes to Mars and gets infected and brings that back home to Earth.
Did you guys notice that the swimming pool that they were in was really big when they were in it together, but then when he's dead, it's like a tiny little hot tub?
Right.
No, I didn't notice that.
There's another shot where the hot tub water is clear while they're looking at the guy floating in there, and it's like there was so much blood. That's a little continuity goof. Yeah. But I'm looking at old Cinefantastique number 27, I think. And he there's an article here with Giger, and he kind of slams a little bit the monster in the movie afterwards. I guess
he does not like the CGI version because they made the face ugly, he thinks.
Yeah. He said
they did.
He disowned the CGI rendition of his Syl design concept as unaesthetic.
Well, I think that, you know, the dream sequence one that's like mating with the male one in the underwater or whatever, that seems more true to what Giger would design than the CGI. Yeah.
I mean, those are the most pure moments of Giger's contribution in this movie.
Yeah.
And the train. The stuff
He didn't like the fact that the CGI version was not transparent, was gnashing his teeth, was unaesthetic, and has nothing to do with my ideas. Frog-like ugliness, computer-controlled, appears in the last 10 minutes of the film, and I can only hope that viewers will not consider it synonymous with my work. I want to distance myself from this Syl, which has nothing to do with my concept. He wanted it to be beautiful and transparent and glowy and, you know, all that stuff. And then when you look at the monster here, like looking through this hole, I don't know where she is right now, looking at Forrest Whitaker. Yeah. It looks like she's hiding inside something with a hole, but
maybe it's
monster vision. Her monster vision.
I mean, she's on the neighbor's property looking through the fence or something, maybe.
I think so.
Maybe, yeah.
But, you know, when you think about it, like the money they gave Giger, you know, like that was the big, carrot on the stick for this movie. Like, you know, what else do people who like Alien, you know, want to go see a movie that Giger's involved with otherwise? Yeah. Because the monster. So the fact that they must have paid him, you know, I don't know, maybe a couple $100,000 or whatever, you know, and then they don't really show his work that much. And then they change, you know, what he brought to the film, you know, by making that CG version ugly and stuff, you know. I like what Steve Johnson did, but I don't like the CG stuff. You know?
Giger goes on to say, Steve Johnson saved my Syl. Had she appeared more often in the film, in all probability, this text would not have been necessary. Since there was not a final version of Syl until the movie was finished, only then could Johnson's Syl be compared to the computer Syl and show up the discrepancies. And then he says after the Ghost Train was taken to L.A. and filmed according to the vision of director Roger Donaldson and producer Frank Mancuso Jr., it was no longer my nightmare sequence for Syl. The whole scene is about 8 seconds long. Syl runs in front of the locomotive, which quickly catches up with her. She wakes up bathed in sweat and I guess he had different plans
he had
for that.
A train station. He had the male and the female Sills a lot more having sex.
Well, and that weird train car, that train car with the horse skulls and the rib cage wasn't in there either.
Right. Yeah, he had a lot more of the train, Mm-hmm. And I would have loved to have seen that, even if they would have just made like a final Blu-ray with all the outtakes, if there is any of all that stuff. I mean, I'm blind now; I can't see it. But my point is that I want more Giger.
Yeah.
And the Blu-ray that I have is pretty bare bones. It just has 2 featurettes on it, and that's it.
There is a Shout Factory release that has more stuff in it. Here's another part that Giger complains about the CGI, and I know the CGI they were doing the best they could with it at the time. It was 1994 when they were filming this, and the movie came out in 95. Yeah. And if you remember, like Terminator 2 was one of the first movies that had that the CGI effect, the Abyss. So it was still kind of the early days of CGI. But he says here, a scene I didn't like was the beginning of the cocoon scene, which I described in detail. The worms were supposed to screw out from bursting pimples in Syl's skin. Instead, as it was done in the film, the skin breaks and red-brown computer sausages pull out.
Yeah. It's true. They really stick out as like being not part of the scene. And
as being CG and not like makeup effects.
Yeah, and it seemed like if they're going to do that, they should have just done practical.
And they could. I mean, Steve Johnson could have easily pulled that stuff off.
Yeah. It's weird, because in those days they were spending a lot of money on CGI. So, if don't do it if it's going to look bad.
That was the beginning of how CGI was stealing, the budgets from practical. There was a lot of tug of war back and forth in these 90s days,
Yeah.
And Feldman, the writer of the script, he actually put a lot of research into a lot of aspects of this movie, like the biological aspect and the aliens. He went to visit some of that SETI project
that's cool.
Scientists and talk to them. He went to talk to people working with the Human Genome Project to know more about DNA, and so he put in a lot of work into that stuff.
I appreciate all that, but in the final analysis, when you think about this movie and the budget, and here we are 25 years later, and we're talking about this movie, but what is our final impression? We like the monster. We would have liked to see more of a science fiction film, less of a police procedural.
Right.
But at the same time, the characters are great. I mean, they're underutilized.
Yeah, but I mean, gosh, you can see this on any episode of CSI or, whatever. It's like I'm sick of, like, the same thing with Hellraiser. Like, look at all those scripts that were police procedurals that were turned into throw Pinhead and now it's Hellraiser.
Or cultists and stuff.
Rip-offs of Jacob's Ladder.
I want to bring up the dream sequence she was just having, which seems so jarring to me because it looks they make this dream sequence where Syl is looking at an empty doorway and Michael Madsen is coming through the door with a light shining behind him and he starts taking his shirt off and she's naked holding an arm to him and it's like so like romantic in a way.
It's so on the
bodice ripper romance novel.
Yeah, it's so on the nose too. I mean, all of her other dreams were not anything like that.
Right, and it just feels like that's. I don't think she's enthralled by Michael Madsen. She's just following this biological imperative, right?
Yeah,
that's the whole thing that the writer keeps talking.
Chime in.
It's kind of what you'd call vanilla.
yeah,
exactly.
Oh, it's very humane.
Yeah,
actually, that little sequence,
like the pizza delivery boy in the porn film.
And
well, he's a good-looking guy.
What she does to this woman is kind of like, okay, this Syl is not sympathetic anymore.
Right. But she has a plan. She has a plan, which at first you watch this, you're like, oh, well, she's just testing out what happens to her body and if she's the same as a human. But then it's like, this is going to pay off in the next sequence that's going to come up. Yeah.
Well, I said to Ed, it's possible that her life cycle, her fertility, because she grew up so quickly, it might be very limited. She doesn't have 10 years.
I was wondering that too, if she's only going to live for like a couple of years.
These guys are cramping my style. I got to get them out of the way so I can get on with my procreation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. She might be hitting Syl menopause soon.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think so, though. I think that the DNA was intended to be able to recreate more and more and more babies, because the intention is to overpopulate and overtake our human race, I think.
Right, but as a mixture of a human and an alien that she is right now, she's like a 50-50 mix.
And
Yeah, but I think she
it's
could
their
make
way of
more
terraforming.
I think
Well,
she
one
could
of the
have more
things
babies.
about this movie that Feldman wrote in the first few drafts is she never actually gave birth. She never actually had a baby in some of the first drafts. That came later. They would find her. There would be a big confrontation. They would kill her, but there was no baby. That was a later draft
It
edition.
felt really tacked on, that whole thing with the baby and the tongue and all that.
Eating the rat.
Yeah.
A little baby.
Yeah, I had forgotten that the rats are the actual last survivors. I had remembered it, that, Nina and I pre-watched this, and I had remembered it, that the last image you see is the little boy eating a rat, and then the movie ends. Kind of like the way we ended Deadpool.
Yeah. I forgot that there was that's the hokiest tie into a sequel I've ever seen, which obviously they didn't use that, I'm sure. Right? That rat doesn't come back in Species 2 or 3.
I like this sequence where, without any dialogue, she's planning and she's working through her plan to fake her own death.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
she's,
clever.
She's stealing a car. She's feeling the gasoline
chopped off
things.
her thumb. She chops off her thumb.
She finds the exact place where she wants to drive off and hit a high voltage, box
power
and stuff.
box. Yeah, big power box.
It's a little expository, but at the same time, there's no dialogue, and it's I like it. I like it. It kind of explains what she was trying to do.
Well, and up to this point, she wasn't really that afraid of this team, but it's like, oh, hey, they almost caught me. Maybe I better do something about it.
What's crazy though is after she's safe and she's created a dead body and everything, then she goes right into the nest of the vipers.
That's true.
She shows up at their hotel and goes.
But Ed, she dyed her hair.
She has black hair.
Oh, yeah, that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
This might be the least effective stakeout ever, because they're like, she might go back to the club. It's what she knows.
Yeah,
we should go back and see if she goes get
there's
another
not
guy.
10 other clubs on the road from where
and
they
it
are
was-
now.
it was-
But not just that, they're inside the club. They're just hanging out.
Well, it
they're
was
having
because
drinks.
Syl did this psychic link with Ben Kingsley's character to make him do
it looked
that.
like she planted the idea as a trap to them.
No, she was just reading his lips. That's what she was doing in the car.
Yeah, she has no psychic
I
powers.
thought she was using psychic powers to make him do that.
No, he's saying
has no
she'll
psychic.
come back to the club, and she's like, she'll come back to the club. That's why she doesn't go back to the club.
Okay,
'Cause
well,
she was
that
reading his lips from the beginning, like when he says, "I'm sorry," and she says, "I'm sorry."
I don't know if I don't know. I've always seen it that she just took over his mind and made him do that because
No, she doesn't have that power.
well, that makes Ben Kingsley's character even worse. I mean, if he told him to go back to
he's a POS.
yeah, that is the stupidest plan.
Yeah, and also
all the other
if you
characters
wanna-
agree that it's
He's
a
not the
stupid
one
plan.
who should be leading
And also,
this
if you want to
team.
stake out a club, you stake out the entrance to the club and the exit to the club. You don't go inside the club and look at all the people in there trying to find the person you're looking for.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, that's
distracted
obvious,
by the
but
lights and everything.
Oh, here
Yeah.
she didn't even dye her hair yet.
yeah.
Right. She's
Trying to lure them out so they can chase her, so she can fake her own death.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
that's the thing.
right.
But you know what's horrible is the way she treats that woman. It kind of reminds me of the way that Quentin Tarantino treats a woman that's a kidnapped victim also in the Dusk Till Dawn movie.
Right,
You know?
right.
I have to disagree. I really think that she psychically planted this idea in Ben Kingsley's mind.
Well, we've never seen anything about that in any of the...
No. I mean, I'm not saying that it's great, but I think that's what happened. I mean, he sort of zombies out, and he's like, "Oh, we have to go back to the club."
Well, he zombies out through the entire movie.
Get the flashlight. It's in the car.
Yeah, towards on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He zombies out through the entire movie, so.
Well, but at that
I just
point,
think
in
he's a
particular-
very bad choice for leading this group. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he is.
But that staking out that nightclub is a terrible idea, and it fits with her plan, and she planned it. I mean, she was right there waiting for them.
Do we lose?
No, she knows that they're there because she read in his lips that they were going to stake out the club. That's how she knows that they're there.
Right.
That's the thing. I think you're seeing this the other way around, but I think that it really is like that's how she knows that they're there because she read it in his lips that they were going to stake out the nightclub. But anyway, this is the part where
we would need to see the script to know that for sure.
Yeah. This is the part where the fuel is sloshing all the way, and it just brings back Mad Max Fury Road flashbacks.
Oh yeah,
because she bought
spray some chrome paint on her,
her teeth,
shiny and chrome. There they go.
It's shiny.
It's Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, that poor lady. All she did was try to help her out.
Yeah, and she's torturing her, and she burns her to death. She might even be alive when she burns her. I don't even know. That's horrible. That makes you have no sympathy for Syl anymore whatsoever.
I think you can see the lady corpse just fly out of the car and everything explodes in a giant ball of flame.
Yeah.
She douses her whole body in gas, lights it, and then pushes her out of the car.
And then the helicopters come by and they fire Tomahawk missiles or something.
Do they really?
They're like, we're not taking any chances.
To blow up with the electrical box and a Tomahawk missile. Double down.
Yeah, they did. I never noticed that before.
Double down.
Wow.
Yep,
yeah,
the
local news television cameras are watching, and they're like, "Oh my God, did you see that? They shot that person."
Yeah, the fire truck guy is like, "Hey, we're trying to rescue people. Why are you blowing it up?"
And of course, I'm going to say that they just show up within 3 seconds of this blowing up. But
that's a good point. Yeah, it should be more like 5 minutes.
So, everybody in Los Angeles is watching this helicopter shoot a fucking missile at this car on the ground.
We got it.
Like, hey.
Haven't they suffered enough?
Cell phones didn't have cameras back then.
Yeah.
But news cameras did.
And of course, Ben Kingsley again showing his awful leadership skills. After Forrest Whitaker's character says,
"Finger we found."
Yeah. And it's
this doesn't feel right.
Cut.
Yeah.
And he's like, "It's all over, everyone. Tomorrow you can go back to your lives." It's like, what?
Yeah.
Do you
See that
sure?
that to me is like zombie mind controlled Ben Kingsley.
I'm suddenly reminded of the Wendy's finger in the chili scandal.
You want to tell me a little more about that?
A friend of ours was working at the Santa Clara Crime Lab, and they were about to cook some cadaver fingers in some chili to prove the case true or false.
Jesus.
And someone came forward and said that although the finger had been manicured, a man came forward and admitted that it had been his finger, that he
lost it in an industrial accident. Yeah,
and the perpetrator of the lawsuit, her son worked with him, and he asked if he could have the finger, gave it to his mother, who manicured
put it on ice
with a fake nail, put it on ice, went to Chili's, and threw it in the Chili's.
Oh no,
Jesus.
Yeah, and they were about to.
So that's another
big payout, huh?
Another thumb story.
Another true thumb stories.
Wow.
Because the woman who did the chili thumb scandal, she had actually done some other fraudulent setups too.
So they had a record.
Lawsuits, so
those are people that walk around with Ziploc bags full of broken glass, huh? Trying to
put it in their soup. Hey,
or a fly.
Yeah.
Bring a fly with them.
Waiter, there's a fly in my soup. Shut up. We don't have enough for everybody.
Everybody else will want one.
And here's the kind of contrived, but I guess they kind of build it up a little bit throughout the movie.
No, I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah. Even though it's been 2-3 days, but and then the poor Alfred Molina's character is trying to get closer to March.
Yeah.
He's a nerd.
Yeah. And Forrest Whitaker knows what he's going through because he can feel it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's so stupid. So Forrest Whitaker's role, I just can't,
the best sequence is the Long Island iced tea sequence.
Yeah, it does make it a little, it's an extra layer of disbelief that you have to get through.
Absolutely.
Michael Madsen is intense. He's being intense right now. He's going to go over to a lady that looks like her in the back and is just going to pull her around because he doesn't think it's done. It's his predatory instinct.
Yeah, but that woman had the exact same bone structure and hair and clothes.
Yeah. It was probably the one who played Syl's double in the movie.
Oh, maybe.
It was probably her lighting double or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to turn around. It was going to be a guy with real silky hair.
Oh, that would be funny. With a beard or a mustache or something.
Yeah, like, hey, man, what the hell?
And then the audience could say, like, hey, she morphed into a man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, boy. So, yeah, everybody's like, well, it's over, but it looks like nobody believes it's over. Like,
Yeah.
and Ben Kingsley is just standing around lumbering like not doing anything. He's just looking around at people like,
Could you be Syl? Are you Syl? Or
Yeah,
how about
but
you,
it's-
Syl?
I remember, like, wasn't there a big craze for Long Island iced teas at this time?
Yes, in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
This
I mean-
came, like the 85, you know.
I don't
used to
drink,
a lot
but
of
I
it.
remember hearing about it.
You only need one.
Yeah.
is there
Yeah,
any
he asked,
is there
"Is
any
there
tea in this thing? He's like,
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah.
Is there any tea in this thing? You know? And it's funny because later on, you know, they say to him, like, you'll never drink another, you know, it's like we'll something about like you'll never drink another Long Island iced tea again, or something like that.
Here, Syl is developing some social skills. She's trying to be a little more subtle now. Not
Yeah.
as,
Yeah.
not as
Yeah.
killy.
She did a really
Little less killing.
good job on her hair, too. I mean,
Not as
considering
stabby.
she did it by herself.
She's not as stabby.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Looks like she knows to start with your roots and move towards your tips. And all that stuff.
She got
Trying
that
to
from
imagine her
television.
measuring 45 minutes and
Well-
then putting on a little, like, you know, wrapping things in foil and being like, oh, it's time to wash my hair.
She mastered driving a car when she'd never had a lesson or watched anybody do
She
it.
watched TV. She said,
Yeah, she was doing
Oh.
stunt driving on the Hollywood Hills. Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah, with all the scrapes on the sides of the car she was
Right.
driving. And stuff.
Yeah.
Growing pains. Yeah, so Natasha Henstridge, there was a whole article about species in Femmes Fatales. And let's see, Femme Fatale, which was a really cool magazine back
Yeah,
in
it
the
was
day.
published by the Cinefantastique people.
Yeah.
They had a lot of female writers like Brink Stevens used to write for them.
Oh, okay. And I think it was issue number 4, maybe. There was the species one. And there's a lot of interesting promo shots. Some of them are like Natasha Henstridge sitting on one of those Harkonnen capo chairs that
Giger's chairs,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. She
Yeah,
has
there's
like this bodysuit that's like spray painted to look like alienish and stuff. That's pretty cool stuff.
A photo layout, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of photos of her wearing those blue straps, you know, that are like harness straps that hold her in the chair. And when she's completely naked, except for these straps that cover strategic spots, you know, so they can publish the photo.
And here she is in the elevator with Michael Madsen, who's completely
Yeah.
oblivious, even though they have kind of pictures of what she looks like. I mean, they have that shot from the hotel, I guess. Yeah. But
And it's like Superman with his glasses on.
but his spider sense is tingling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
notices she smells like Marg Helgenberger. and
Yeah, the
he's
same
confused.
perfume.
Yeah.
He's just dancing with someone that smelled like that.
Yeah, didn't they change perfume in the bathroom? Like she was in there with Marge Helgenberger.
Yeah,
and
she
other
does.
Women.
She's like,
And
I
she
like your
said, "Oh."
perfume. Can I try some? Yeah. And then, does this work on your boyfriend? You can just tell that this is entirely like, I want to
Yeah.
do the same thing you're doing because I want to get your guy.
Yeah.
Right.
But she didn't kill her, at least.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in the third act, pretty much Michael Madsen's only shtick is going to be to say obvious things from now on. Like he's going to see a hole. He's going to see she went down this hole, and
Right.
and there's a dead guy on the ground. I think she passed this way, and I'm like, yes, there's a dead guy on the ground. Right.
Yeah.
I know, it's almost as bad as Forrest Whitaker. I think she went this way. You know, it's like
Yeah, once they go down into the sewers, the whole movie is kind of that's where you kind of check out. It's just not as good.
yeah.
anymore.
Unfortunately, because the CGI as well. You know, that really
Yeah.
takes you out of the film. You know.
And Ben Kingsley's character gets killed. You're kind of like, that's fine.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah.
You really don't care.
Yeah.
Number one, he was a dislikable, unlikable guy throughout the whole film.
But it
so when
was-
he dies, it's like, oh
But
well.
it was weird because they set him up to be sympathetic, right? Because he's crying when they're gassing Syl, and you think, oh, okay, well this guy actually cares, and then later on it's like, I don't know, I don't think so.
The
Yeah, I
writer
don't
for
either.
this script describes his character as a bathtub geneticist. So maybe he was just sad that his experiment was over.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
probably more.
Yeah.
So in this scene here, the sex scene between Michael Madsen and Helgenberger was actually improvised. They were allowed to improvise their sex scene.
Oh,
Yeah.
it looked real enough.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's like the camera just shows like half of the scene, and then she's like pulling his pants down, and she goes down on her knees, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, but I told Ed that if she really wanted to get the most out of it, she actually would have seduced him a couple nights earlier, because they're about ready to not see each other again.
Yeah,
they would have had several nights in the hotels.
Over.
Here's the nerd trying to score.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, come on, man. Those two girls right there. We've all been in that position. We're at a bar.
You're my wingman.
Yeah, your friend is trying to be your wingman, and you're like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw myself on the grenade. But
tries to talk to the girls, and the guys come up.
Yeah. I was wondering what
this is kind of
beautiful, sophisticated women doing without dates. Boink, here they are.
Yeah, they could have just said, "Oh, we have dates."
Yeah, but they rather show instead of say.
Yeah.
And they're like, what was your name again?
Yeah, and that lady doesn't understand that he was hitting on her. And she's like, wait, come back. We were talking to you.
Yeah, you're a genetic scientist, aren't you? You're worth a couple $100,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
Stick around. You can buy our drinks,
These two characters, though, they're the most cynical characters in the whole movie. Like Michael Madsen just sounds like he's having, he doesn't take any of this seriously. He just laughs at everything that he says.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in this movie. It's going to be an alien movie.
Yeah.
And Marge just seems so cynical in everything that she every line that she says here in this movie. It's just funny. They're the two characters who are like, we don't care. We just want to score with each other.
And this is a paycheck,
Yeah. And remember when hotels actually gave you a key?
Yeah, did you guys notice this little audio sting that comes up every once in a while? It sounds like Alien.
Mm-hmm.
You mean a Christopher Young music piece?
Yeah, but it sounds like the score from Alien. Every once in a while you hear the doo doo doo. It's like the high pitched kind of sound. It's like the Alien score.
Yeah, I think they do stuff like that just to keep you reminding that there's an alien girl here somewhere.
Yeah. It's kind of subtle, but.
And of all the things this team had to do, they had one job, which was to keep this alien from getting impregnated, and here we are.
I know. Well, she's got black hair.
As if they could have stopped her. She didn't even have to get off the train to get impregnated. I mean, what's the deal?
I got to say, I'm really impressed how they managed to put a raccoon underneath Alfred Molina's armpits.
Oh God.
He was the Ponson in Frida Kahlo movie.
Oh, right. He was the guy who painted the murals, right? Yeah.
He was Ponson. He was what's his name?
Doc Ock.
No, well, yeah, he was Doc Ock too.
Yeah,
he was also in Raiders
in
of the Lost
another
Ark.
movie with a Christopher Young soundtrack.
Yeah,
Spider-Man
where they
2.
actually used Hellbound score for him.
Or two.
Yeah. A rearranged
I
version.
forgot that he was
for the,
Dr. Octopus.
When they made their temp track, I think they used Hellraiser music originally.
Yeah,
But,
that makes sense.
You know who else Alfred Molina is?
Who?
In Raiders of the Lost Ark, the native guy that goes with Indian.
Yeah.
That's him when he was young.
Wow.
I'm sorry, senor.
Throw me the whip. I'll throw you the idol.
Yeah.
That's him. Yeah. Yep. Alfred Molina, probably one of his first roles there.
It was, yeah, and he was really skinny and young.
And here's another sting. Forrest Whitaker's character touches the door and he senses that Scylla's in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Luckily, these guys are apparently done, so he can.
Yes.
What's so stupid though? They always split up. Like when they go down in the sewers.
Yeah.
Again, another great moment of leadership by Ben Kingsley's character. Like,
stupid.
You go that way, we go this way.
Yeah, I think
split up.
I think she went this way, so I'm going this way.
You don't know.
Yeah.
After that,
up and they'll kill you.
Yep. And then all of a sudden, everybody has a giant gun, even though one is a molecular biologist. The other one is like
yeah, they're all armed.
I mean, Ben Kingsley, of all people, this little bald man, you're going to let Gandhi have a big gun, you know?
Yeah.
Really?
man. If you ever played Civilization, Gandhi is pretty aggressive in Civilization.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard the story about that actually with Civilization. It was an error in the code where they upped his aggression really high by mistake, and
Oh, that's funny.
And
It is.
and people liked it so much they just left it like that.
Oh my God, how lame is this? He just had sex with Syl and is like, I enjoyed that immensely.
Yeah, but he's kind of lame in general, I guess.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, Ryan, she immediately knows that she's pregnant. You know.
Yeah.
Yep. She's like, oh, I felt it. Oh, it's right here.
His run.
And he's like, well, I've heard women have been able to claim that they know the moment of conception.
Yeah,
but,
it's like, how long does it take him to figure out that Syl? I mean, geez.
right.
Here come the
He's
spikes.
just, his ego is
He's
so big,
drunk.
he thinks, oh, this gorgeous woman is going to jump in my bed, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, and
he's-
break into his room. I mean, come on.
It's like this kind of
with no
stuff doesn't
small
happen to
talk
me.
or nothing, you know. Like,
Yeah.
where is it? Okay, how much is this going to cost? You know, it's like, you know, maybe hookers might try to sneak into your room, you know, after they see your credit cards. You know?
Yeah, the first call should be to the front desk. Yeah.
Or the wall. Now, I
understand.
found this, her little bursting through walls and doors is a bit cartoonish, the shape of her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she looks like, you know, like
Yeah.
a Warner Brothers character with a hole shaped like
Yeah.
a person. You know?
Right.
She's actually going to go through a complete metal door,
Right.
That's true.
but then
I
somehow
mean,
she can get shot. And,
yeah,
and,
she
you know,
shouldn't be heavy enough to get through the door like that.
Well, she doesn't have internal organs and stuff like we do, right? She
Yeah,
has cylinders
she
inside
should-
her arms.
Yeah, but she would just bounce off. I mean, it's just the amount of, I don't know. I guess
It's
you know,
an alien.
there's a lot
This is
of
Marvel logic.
It's an
Yeah.
alien monster. With
yeah. Look at that.
tentacles
What is
coming out
that
of
like?
her nipples.
That door's a foot thick.
No. I mean, it's bent.
There's
I mean,
all
the
the
panel
guns.
is bent outwards. But
Conveniently
yeah.
located.
It's
like,
like
why-
adamantium.
Okay, the thing is,
Yeah.
why does he blow up the window to his own van to get his guns? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that just seems like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't have time to use my key. Bang, boom.
Because it was
dude.
cool.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Exciting.
I know, I get that. It's badass, but it's also really stupid.
Right.
At that
Yeah,
moment in the movie,
Well,
it was
Wiley
confusing.
Joe, if you're going to stop and say it's really stupid now,
Yeah. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, here we go. We're going into everybody's got a gun. Everybody's got flashlights, tactical flashlights taped to their guns and a
but nobody
flamethrower.
has any headsets or communication equipment.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah. Let's
That would be the
rock.
first thing you would have.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Hand out the
this,
bulletproof vests and the headsets.
this felt so contrived, and it's like, geez, man. I mean, are we in Aliens now?
Look, here's a
Yeah.
spot where there's a
Colonial
dead guy on the floor and Michael Madsen pops out. I think she went this way. She must have come through here. And then they're going to come up to a manhole.
Yeah.
He's going to say, I think she went down there.
Or
And it's
maybe,
like, oh,
or
God,
maybe
you're
he
killing
just died of natural causes.
Yeah, I actually like the first and second act of the movie. It's the third act that kind of falls apart to me.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, man, what are we going to use? Harsh language?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's a giant cave system underneath that hotel. It's like, this must have been opened through after the earthquake. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll give you that. But
Quit your
Yeah.
grinning and drop your lid.
Yeah. Damn it,
There
who's
you go.
firing?
and for some reason, there's a whole bunch of toilets right there in the corner for some reason.
Yeah.
Because it's a sewer. You have to
Yeah.
introduce the poop and pee
Yeah.
elements, you know?
Sewer level. It's like a game.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah,
game
and
has-
the way they have to
About the
crouch
water.
down in this tunnel looks totally like Dallas in Alien.
They should have a proximity sensor.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Forrest Whitaker. That's
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
head.
That's him, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got
They
the
went this
empath
way.
thing
He
going.
went
Yeah.
this way. She went this way.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, boy.
It's a bloodhound. You know, instead of a dog, you get a Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
This is the part where they split up.
Yeah, this is lame.
Great
is the
leadership
stupidest
skills,
part.
Ben Kingsley.
Yeah.
Okay, we're 70 minutes in, it's time to split up.
Yeah.
I mean, don't even get me started with the fact that they can get 20 police cars, army people, helicopters at a moment's notice
to run around the hillside.
But right now, that they could just call and say, "Hey, she's at the hotel. Can you guys come down here?"
Get the sewer, blueprint system and close off every manhole for a mile in every direction and start bringing troops in. And what are these idiots doing?
Yeah. That's why it really falls apart, because it's like, okay, it's just let's rush through the end, and even the ending is so abrupt. Like you just see the mouse eat another mouse. Boom, end credits, boom, that's it. Yeah. Movie's over.
Right, and that was added because that wasn't the way that the writer originally wrote it.
Yeah, well, and that's stupid. That thing with the rat, that's dumb.
Not only is it dumb, but it looks bad.
Yeah.
It's not convincing or
well, and the rat is the same size as the rat that it's eating, and it suddenly just puts it in its mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a Sci-Fi featurette about the making of Species that has Ben Kingsley narrating inside an editing bay room.
I saw that. That is
You saw that? Yeah, and it's like I'm just imagining Ben Kingsley being like, "Okay, we'll pay you to be here for maybe an afternoon and come over and narrate this.
Here's all these pretentious words you have to say."
And he's like,
"As an actor, we want you to really emphasize and put some gravitas beside
yes." And he's like, "She's an extraterrestrial life form, but she's also sensuous." And I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, and I wonder how many takes it took for him to get that right. Like he probably read it and thought, "This is ridiculous. You want me to say this with a straight face?"
Yeah.
It's like
I know. It's like I actually do have some degree of I enjoy this movie. Like I said, I went to the theater at the time. I was like, yeah, it was all right. I mean,
me too. I was looking forward to it. I bought the book, everything,
But it's just rewatching the movie. The third act is just so bad, and that was a big part of my disappointment back then. Even though I was like, hey, it's Giger, I got the book. There's pictures of Syl, and there's a picture of Natasha Henstridge naked on a Harlequinade chair and all that stuff. And I'm like, hey, cool, titties and art.
Everything after when she faked her own death is lame, as far as the Syl plot.
I think the 90s had this kind of thing that going on, which was everybody in the movies had to be immaculately coiffed, good skin, nice clothes. Everybody's beautiful in movies and all that stuff. And then in the 2000s, it was it's the gritty era. Everything has to be gritty. Everything has to be dark. The colors have to be desaturated.
Like Dark Knight, Batman, Dark Knight.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's
so. Yeah, there's a costume Syl.
Yeah, there's a costume Syl that's completely opaque.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're in the tunnels, and they're still trying to get her, but she's luring them apart, luring them here and there by jumping down and swimming.
Well, technically she is pregnant, right?
I am glad we're watching this instead of Poltergeist 2, though. I mean, the amount of Giger stuff in that is way lower than in this movie.
Right. And ironically, Steve Johnson did that too.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, he did. That was the first time he ever got to do anything Giger-esque.
Was that the tequila worm?
Yes.
Yeah, the tequila worm.
And what he did was, he worked from Giger paintings and artwork.
Here comes the birthing scene.
Yeah.
This is interesting because the way Giger designed her was so that she would give birth to a large baby, and therefore she needs to have the baby up in her rib cage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right,
so we're going to see that moving.
I have to say, though, I mean, with all of the magical powers that Syl has, why does it hurt her to have a baby?
Just because it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, just to trying to make it more like human, but she's not.
Oh, did you see
clearly
that?
Not human.
Her chest, her sternum opens up, and this kind of pod comes out with a baby. That's where the baby is born.
Right, and the ribs open up and spread, and her whole torso, exits the baby.
But she recovers really fast.
Uh-huh.
Right, it closes back up.
Yeah,
right. It's not like Enemy Mine, where it's like when you have a baby, that's it, you're dead.
Yeah,
you remember that?
Yeah,
the Drax.
Yeah,
it's a strange movie, but it's kind of timeless.
I like that movie.
Yeah.
I have a lot of in common with that movie too, because that was done by Chris Wallace, who's right here in the Bay Area, and I visited the workshop, and we went to Japan together in 1985, and he just completed the movie and brought with him the little baby, the radio controlled baby.
That's
from.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a great makeup, such great makeup designs and art direction in that movie with the spaceships and the alien and all that
feels
stuff.
like a movie that wouldn't get made today. You know, it's like it's not enough action and.
Well, look at Avatar. Look at these new 3 Avatar movies that are about to come out.
Are they? I
and
thought that was like on hold forever.
Oh no!
It's kind of on hold, but they already showed
release,
some pictures
they're
that
deep into production. They're making
really?
3 movies at once.
Sigourney Weaver is actually coming back for the second one, but she's going to play a different character. So
that's
I saw a picture.
Why would they do that?
Died in the first one, yeah.
Well, she dies, but she gets uploaded into that neural network.
Sully was a twin in the plot.
Well, that's because his body is broken, but he can get into the avatar. And
right, because his brother had been the one to use it.
That's like how in the Mad Max movies, that gyro captain guy plays a different character in every movie. Like, don't do that.
But, I don't know if it's going to be a different character altogether, or if it's going to be like a reincarnation, because she got uploaded into that matrix, the neural matrix of the Pandora planet. Right. So maybe she can be reborn of some sort.
Well, we won't know until the movie comes out.
Yeah, right. But anyway.
I saw that movie like 4 times in the theater, but I could not get myself to buy it because it's like, no, I've seen it enough. And the 3D was like the driving selling point on that. And
there was a bit of a blockbuster burnout factor there as well.
And actually, Jurassic Park was the same exact. Yeah, it's like, no, I don't need to see that at home.
Oh, there's the baby. You can see the baby all grody and covered in stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the
it's
funny
strange
thing
because he's not a very, very small baby. He looks like maybe like 1 year old or something.
No, probably like he's probably like
that's why she had to carry the baby in her chest. So
I think he's like 2.
Yeah, he's pretty big. He's got big arms and legs. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, what if this baby never like turned into this evil looking monster? Would it be okay to shoot him up with flamethrowers?
That's an interesting point, Ryan.
I don't want to take the chance,
Yeah.
It's like, would you go back in time and kill baby Hitler?
Yeah.
But what's funny is that I always remembered this movie as that boy didn't get killed. I always remembered it that he was the last thing you see, that the frog comes out of his mouth.
I had that feeling too.
That would have made sense. I mean, it would have made it easier for them
because then he could have scurried up into the tunnels of the the sewer and never been found, and then the sequel could start with a little boy.
Well, yeah, and their setup with the rat, that's stupid. I mean, they even when they made the sequel, they're like, yeah, we're not using that.
Imagine a mixture between an alien and a rat.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Well, Mimic, which is a movie that
I like that movie. Yeah,
I love. It's so great.
Movie. Poster quote from Clive Barker. Mimic was about these cockroaches or whatever that some scientists created to fight this disease that was killing kids in the city or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the part where she says she's stuck, but she's clearly just floating around the water. And then one of the cockroaches, they grow and become like these giant creatures. They kind of look like a guy in a raincoat.
Yeah.
Right. They look like a homeless guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that movie. And I bought the trilogy because it all came together in one box, but the sequels are awful. The sequels are so bad.
Kind of reminds me of Wishmaster. The first one's good, and then they made some sequels.
Yeah. Pete Atkins.
Yep. Good old Pete.
Oh, here's the CGI Syl now.
Yeah,
it's so terrible.
It's so weird. The eyes are the same color as its skin, too. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but
it depends on the shot.
It's all 90-degree angles, like the eyebrows and the eyes. The way that they're like. Yeah. That's the way you make a evil, monstery face. Yeah. When you put evil 90-degree eyebrows on somebody, they look mean.
Yeah, in some shots they look bluish, in some shots they look red, but it's just here we go.
Here's some
breast tentacle
action going on.
Yeah.
You get the 2 nipple tentacles.
Yeah.
And they have the double problem of having fire, which is, always a problem with CGI and stuff, and water. Which is another problem with CGI,
They never really explain why. I think there's a throwaway line near the end where it's like, all the natural gas from the sewers was setting this on fire or something.
Yeah.
And it's like,
what?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, right.
It don't make sense.
Yeah, you don't. Natural gas doesn't
The
make
Chewbacca
water.
defense
Doesn't make
don't
water.
make sense.
Doesn't make water flammable.
And Giger didn't like this ending very much because it reminded him of Alien 3 ending and Terminator 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, he had that idea of having Syl turn red hot and fire, would be expelled from her. And they could do this at the end of the movie, but they couldn't use his idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. He even had a bus that he put a light inside and he made it red. And you can see that in one of those featurettes.
Yep. Yeah, and he was saying that there was an orange Syl,
Yeah, an orange Syl. There's a lot of photos of her.
I suppose from the producer's perspective, this movie still made money, so they're like, who cares? I don't care what you think.
Yeah,
exactly.
It made $113 million.
Shame that they couldn't give Giger a budget and say, Giger, let's make a movie with all of your monsters and creatures and universe and everything. Like, let's take your Necronomicon and make a movie with that.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't that basically Black Star or Dark Star or whatever?
What, you mean the Giger movie? You mean Dark Star?
Dark Star? Yeah, wasn't that basically what it was?
No. You've never seen it? You've never seen Dark Star?
I thought I did.
You're talking about
Dark Star is a comedy sci-fi with Dan O'Bannon as an actor in it.
Oh, wait, no.
John Carpenter directed it.
I'm thinking about something else then. I'm thinking about another.
There is another a movie that I think Giger was associated with that has dark in the title, I think.
Yeah.
Well, there's Dark Seed
Dark
is a
Seed.
video game.
Well,
Dark Star?
No, Dark Star is the Carpenter and Dan O'Bannon movie, Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
No, a
started out as a
2014
student film.
Swiss documentary.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a documentary then. Okay.
Yeah,
But is it called Dark Star?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Is that the one that his wife, Dan O'Bannon's wife helped to co-produce, and Giger's widow, or, Giger's girlfriend after his death, that was fairly recent, like it was made in 2018 or 2019? Is that the one?
No, this is 2014, directed by Belinda Saline.
Yes, it's a woman. Yeah, okay.
That's 2014.
The majority of that documentary has a lot of, people talking like his ex, wife or girlfriend, Giger's ex-girlfriend.
And here comes the rat.
Here comes the rat. Mousy.
Oh, no.
He's going to eat the tentacle, the breast tentacle.
Oh, God.
The
this is
stupidest part.
So dumb. I hate it so much.
Do you guys remember
smarter if they would have just had the tentacle grow like an arm or something? Because technically, the idea was supposed to be that Syl, like any part of her, could like a lizard, could grow a whole new body.
Yeah.
Well, there was a sequence that they never shot where it was kind of like The Thing, where Syl's hand would move out of her face, crawl down her shoulder into her like torso and stuff, but they never had the time to do that.
Yeah, along
that
with
would have
a
been
lot
something.
of other ideas that Giger probably came up with, like just the design of Syl, like her feet are like high heel shoes. She's got these weird feet, and you never really get to see or notice any of that kind of stuff.
She's basically an alien pinup.
Yes.
Yeah. But that last shot, I got to say again, it's just so abrupt. Like the mouse eats the other mouse, and then boom, cut to credits.
Yeah,
it's like you don't even give us time to digest what we just saw. It's like
and the characters that we've been following through this whole movie are just like on their way out of the caves, and that's it. They don't get to say anything.
It feels like it wasn't there supposed to be more here. It's like this is your ending. It's so like abrupt. I just can't.
Yeah, they're like, well, we already did all our best stuff. Let's just cut it here.
End it.
Yes.
What is the running time?
About an hour, 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's pretty long.
So if they could have made it a little bit longer, they might have been able to make that ending not so abrupt.
And they could have kept it under 2 hours. I mean, we just needed like 5 more minutes.
Yeah, just don't cut any of the nude scenes with Syl, because
that's
don't cut any of that out. Leave it in.
That's your moneymaker.
That's your moneymaker. Yep.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Giger would have been a more moneymaker, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If they would have used his work more.
Yeah, I know. And this movie would have had more lasting power, I think as a cult hit. Or
even like on the Blu-ray, like if they would have just added like a big long dream sequence of footage that Giger, was more responsible for, a big longer train sequence, or some of the footage that was shot without all the ghosty, foggy, dreaminess to it, just the raw unfoggy, unghosty footage of the train and of this male and female Sill. Just let us see the raw footage.
I think that if this movie, if it, except for Giger fans, for everybody else, this movie is just kind of like, oh yeah, I remember that. But
right.
It's not like
it came and went.
Yeah.
It just came and it went.
Yeah.
And to our listeners, if you're watching this and you want to make a double feature with another Giger art-inspired movie,
here we go.
Watch Killer Condom.
Yeah.
Killer Condom follows a gay detective who's been hired to investigate a series of bizarre attacks at the Hotel Quickie, in which male guests have all had their penises mysteriously bitten off. And yes, the killer condoms are little condoms filled with white paste and little animal skulls, and they go around biting people's penises off, which
and what did Giger have to do
I got
with
nothing.
That?
Well, he made those little creatures. He created those little creatures. He made a lot of artwork for that. Yes.
He just did paintings, or he physically made 3-dimensional things, or
let me see if I can. I would have to look more into
that's
that.
a movie that I'd never heard of until you brought it up, and I looked around on the streaming sites and I couldn't find it.
I'd heard of it, but I hadn't seen it, and I thought you were talking about that other one that Doug Bradley was in.
No, that's the Killer Tongue. Yeah, that's a meteor falls into a nun's soup bowl, and she turns into a gigantic dominatrix, and her dogs turn into like S&M slaves. Giger for Killer Condom, he was artistic consultant. Yep.
Oh.
Interesting.
He
but
made
what does that
drawings
mean
of little
exactly?
creatures. Well, I've seen pictures of his studio where he actually created little creatures for the Killer Condom. So they're basically like rubber Magnum latex condoms filled with like
so where do you
this
even,
white resin.
where do
and
you
then
even
little
find that
sculpts.
then? Is it on YouTube or
I mean, it's.
Where did you see
I think
those
it's in
images?
DVD. I saw it on TV years ago. Yeah. I saw it on TV years ago. Right now, I know that it's on DVD. I'm pretty sure it was distributed by Troma. It's got the Troma logo at the beginning, so it was definitely distributed by Troma. But I'm sure it's on DVD.
Yeah.
Some of Giger's early films, like there's in that Cinefantastique article on Alien, they show this weird suit, this weird costume that has like a camera on the head and this weird body design that Giger did. And it's from some weird film that was made early, like in 16 millimeter, before he ever got involved with Alien. He's a designer of, three-dimensional objects. Like he went to I forget what they call that, like people who design typewriters and computers and, objects, three-dimensional products, I think it might be called product design or something like that. He went to college for that and got training. So he knows about how to use fiberglass and rubber and latex and stuff like that. But he's not up to the skill levels that Steve Johnson and his crew was, to do the physical three-dimensional pre-production of a full-size Sill and the train and all that stuff. They did their best, but they really didn't have the skill level.
Yeah, and and I loved that train sequence when I saw it, a long time ago. But watching it now on Blu-ray, it's like, the definition is too good, and it you can tell that it's a model. And I don't know.
So it detracts from it for you?
Yeah, seeing it in high definition, it's like, oh, wow, that's a little too close up.
I've heard of that from so many people about the quality level of Blu-ray versus their remembrance of VHS and the way they used to see things on normal broadcast television, and then they see it and it's too crisp and too clean, and then they start noticing the flaws.
Sure, well, like the Exorcist, we talked about that, right? The Pazuzu statue showing up over Reagan when she's like kneeling, her head's going back.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was Pazuzu. When I saw it before, and then I see it on Blu-ray, it's like, it's just.
It's when things go into Blu-ray that you start seeing like wires and makeup edges and stuff like that. But it's what are you going to do? That's just part of the magic.
It's the charm of the old days of practical effects and stuff. Like the way the engineer in Hellraiser, you can see like the little bicycle wheel. And,
but you can see that in the VHS. Yeah.
But
I think it was Warwick Sacey, Simon Sacey's brother, pushing the cart with the engineer down
Yeah.
Is that
the
right?
hallway.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, I think it was. But, yeah, well, just for the record, Killer Condom is available on DVD on Amazon, but it costs $21. And there's a VHS tape version that costs $60. So
Yeah, we'll just go down to Blockbuster and rent it.
yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. The last
Anyway,
Blockbuster store.
We've often talked about movies that shouldn't be reboot because they're classics and why mess with them. But I think Species could actually be a
Yeah, I
rebootable
think
movie
it actually
because,
would be a good one.
Yeah, the computer effects now and practical, combined with practical effects now could be really well melded together. I think it could be.
And they could make
I think, and Steve Johnson's still around. He could come back and do it even better. Like really try to please Giger. Even though Giger's passed.
Yeah. And they could bring back Natasha Henstridge because she looks just the same.
Yeah.
She could play the Mark Helgenberger part.
Yes.
Although they like almost never do that with remakes, right? They don't bring back.
They don't recast unless there's just like a little cameo or something.
The only remake that did exactly that was Vanilla Sky, brought back Penelope Cruz to do the same exact role that she did in the Spanish version.
Oh.
And then when they made the American remake, she came back to do the exact same role, which is so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Was that a Portuguese or Spanish film?
Spanish.
So you saw it in its original language, or?
Well, at first I saw the American version, then I saw the Spanish version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because,
I've seen both as well. I like them both.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen either one.
It's all right. It's got a what a twist kind of movie.
Yeah.
What was that about again?
It's about a guy who has an accident and his face gets messed up, and then he's dealing with that problem, and he wears a mask, and there's it's hard to describe without spoiling the movie.
I don't think I've seen it then.
There's a cool shot in the American version where Tom Cruise is running down Times Square and there's nobody around, and it's like, what is going on? That's a funny movie.
I don't know if you want to spoil it, but it's got a lot of cerebral, crazy stuff in it.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. All right, so that was Species from Clive Barker's A through Z of Horror. F is for flesh, alien flesh in this case.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
And I wish there was more Giger in it.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for what we got. We got the train sequence, and we got the cool underwater tangled bodies of the sill creatures, which is pretty neat.
I mean, what's ironic is that in both this movie and in Alien, I mean, Giger is responsible for the title character,
Yeah. Yeah.
And he doesn't get the gravitas for it, really.
No.
And Clive Barker said about Giger's work, he says, in mapping the tribal lands of our psyches, Giger gives us fresh access to them. He frees us, in essence, to wander there, encouraged by the fact that others have gone before. He makes us brave, and I can think of few higher ambitions for any art.
That's cool.
That's a great quote. That's a great way to end it.
Awesome.
He's been a genius in our time, and he's been so influential in this past century. It's amazing.
I'm very happy to have a documentary about Giger's art that came signed by H.R. Giger.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I have that in my collection. It's a really good documentary.
I'm so happy to have that fax he sent too for us. Framed piece by him.
Yep. Thanks, guys, for joining us for this episode. It was great that I know you. I wonder if there's a Blu-ray that has a what do you call that track where it explains things for
commentary?
Audio descriptive.
Oh yeah,
audio descriptive. Yeah. I think there should be more movies with audio descriptive tracks.
Yeah,
that would.
Yes.
I would like to do it for myself. Like create an audio descriptive track for like classics like Hellraiser and Hellbound.
Yes. Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, and I think I only mentioned this off the podcast, but when I tried to select the subtitles for my Blu-ray, it just got stuck on that menu, and I'd have to shut it down and start it all over again.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Blu-ray
it seems like
menus are very frustrating.
Yeah.
Glitch. Yeah. Did you guys hear about this new format of DVD, which is probably way late into the curve, but it's like an MDVD or whatever that's supposed to last like 1,000 years when you burn it? It's
no, never heard of that.
Huh. I got to look into that. I was looking into buying a external drive, and I came across this new format of DVD that actually it's guaranteed 1,000 years storage without any without the infamous DVD rot.
So do the players, are they backwards compatible with like Blu-rays and stuff and old DVDs?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. But anyway, so what's next? What's coming up next, Ryan?
We just finished. We're talking about maybe doing a news episode, and if we do that, it'll probably come before this episode. So whatever the number that I said at the beginning of this episode will be wrong. But we got G is for Grim Tales, right? So we were talking about for that Edward Scissorhands and what is the name of that
Jack the Giant Killer?
No, the
Tales of the Brothers Grimm?
Brothers Grimm, right.
That one, yeah. And then H is for Harlequinade, which is about scary clowns. So we kind of talked about doing like Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Right.
Oh, that's so cool.
Maybe He Who Laughs, or was it...
He Who Gets Slapped.
He Who Gets Slapped.
The Lon Chaney one.
Yeah, the Lon Chaney. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, and Cult Divinity Lost, we got that scheduled now, so that game will be happening as we're recording this next weekend. And
your Aberrat episode was excellent.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was great. It was kind of a nice way to end the series, I guess. I mean, the series isn't over, but
I haven't listened to that yet. But a 2-mile long barge boat with lightning for legs is sounding pretty cool.
Yeah, the Stormwalker.
Yes, with Peggy O'Leary, which was great to have her back because she's done so much to teach younger generations about this book.
And we're all gonna have to fire up our trial accounts of Hulu so that we can watch.
For the Books of Blood.
Books of Blood, October 7th that comes out.
Yeah, my birthday's October 2nd.
Oh, really? Huh?
Yeah.
So you can watch that for your birthday.
Yeah. Or listen to it, rather.
Yeah, right, of course.
I'm going to have to get a trial for Hulu to watch that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do a month free, I think.
I saw that because somebody on Facebook was saying, oh, you can't get a month trial. You can't get a trial. And I looked it up. I I think you can get a month free with Hulu.
Yeah, if you hook up.
I just need one night.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
or maybe two. One for. Well, I don't know. Are we gonna? We wouldn't do an audio commentary.
But support Hulu because they're making projects that are cool.
Well, wait and see. Wait and see what you think of it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it evolved quite a bit from. It started out as a TV series, and it's turned into a movie.
As much of Clive had to do with it, or?
Yes, I think that he came up with the basics of the story. That's the middle story, but it's not a Books of Blood story.
Okay,
it's going to be the bookends, and then there's going to be some twists and turns, and a new character that's not part of any story.
Yeah,
she's a young girl who has misophonia. It's a fear of loud noises, and I don't know how that's going to tie in, but that's the only thing we know about. It's going to be 3 stories. 2 of them are the bookend stories of the Books of Blood, with the psychic guy who gets caught in the crossways of the Highway of the Dead, right?
Yeah, and then one of them is one of the stories from his skin. His skin.
Well, I'll be very interested to hear your guys' coverage of that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty interested to watch it. Yeah. So that's going to be Grim Tales, Harlequinade, Cult Divinity Lost, which is going to be kind of a different experiment for our podcast. Yeah. Not very related to Clive Barker, but it's going to be an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe that will inform future projects that we might have on the in store. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. You can find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com. We've got an archive of past episodes, news, features, and reviews, along with all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on every other place you can find podcasts. Share your thoughts with us and share our podcast with your friends. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and news blog that's not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.